North American Time by Adrienne Rich. 1. When my dreams showed signs of becoming politically correct, no unruly images escaping beyond borders, when walking in the street I found my themes cut out for me, knew what I would not report for fear of enemies' usage, then I began to wonder. 2. Everything we write will be used against us or against those we love. These are the terms, take them or leave them. Poetry never stood a chance of standing outside history. One line typed 20 years ago can be blazed on a wall in spray paint to glorify art as detachment or torture of those we did not love, but also did not want to kill. We move, but our words stand, become responsible for more than we intend. And this is verbal privilege. 3. Try sitting at a typewriter one calm summer evening at a table by a window in the country. Try pretending your time does not exist, that you are simply you, that the imagination simply strays like a great moth, unintentional. Try telling yourself that you are not accountable to the life of your tribe, the breath of your planet. 4. It doesn't matter what you think. Words are found responsible. All you can do is choose them or choose to remain silent. Or you never had a choice, which is why the words that do stand are responsible. And this is verbal privilege. 5. Suppose you want to write of a woman braiding another woman's hair, straight down or with beads and shells, in 3-strand plaits or cornrows. You had better know the thickness, the length, the pattern, why she decides to braid her hair or how it is done to her, what country it happens in, what else happens in that country. You have to know these things. 6. Poet, sister. Words, whether we like it or not, stand in a time of their own. No use protesting. I wrote that before Kollontai was exiled, Rosa Luxemburg, Malcolm, Anna May Aquash, murdered, before Treblinka, Birkenau, Hiroshima, before Sharpeville, Biafra, Bangladesh, Boston, Atlanta, Soweto, Beirut, Assam. Those faces, names of places sheared from the almanac of North American time. 7. I am thinking this in a country where words are stolen out of mouths as bread is stolen out of mouths, where poets don't go to jail for being poets, but for being dark-skinned, female, poor. I am writing this in a time when anything we write can be used against those we love, where the context is never given, though we try to explain over and over for the sake of poetry at least. I need to know these things. 8. Sometimes, gliding at night in a plane over New York City, I have felt like some messenger called to enter, called to engage this field of light and darkness, a grandiose idea born of flying. But underneath the grandiose idea is the thought that what I must engage after the plane has raged into the tarmac, after climbing my old stairs, sitting down at my old window, is meant to break my heart and reduce me to silence. 9. In North America, time stumbles on without moving, only releasing a certain North American pain. Julia de Burgos wrote, that my grandfather was a slave is my grief. Had he been a master, that would have been my shame. A poet's words hung over a door in North America in the year 1983. The almost full moon rises, timelessly speaking of change out of the Bronx, the Harlem River, the drowned towns of the Quabbin, the pilfered burial mounds, the toxic swamps, the testing grounds. And I start to speak again. So that poem was written by Adrienne Rich in 1983. It's a poem that when I read it felt like it could have been written yesterday. It felt so timeless, so timely, in a time God, 30, 40 years later, that it feels like this poem still is sending the exact same message, still saying the exact same things, still fighting the same struggles that were happening in 1983. And I think Adrienne Rich was one of those poets who was just so aware of history and politics and things going on around her, so completely immersed and engaged in those things that it shines through in her poetry. She really revolutionized feminist poetry, was something that was not being taught or widely expressed in her lifetime, and she still went forward and expressed it. She came out as a lesbian in a time when that was not very acceptable, in a time when she had already gone through the process of marrying a man and living that life, and then realizing later that that was not the life she wanted for herself, not the life that was true to her. I first learned about her back in 2011. I had the immense privilege and pleasure of studying a semester abroad in England, and I took a mix of British and American literature courses. It's really interesting to see the opposite side, how they view us and also how they view themselves, as opposed to how I was being taught about British literature. And one of the great things that came out of that was getting to know Adrienne Rich's poetry and really like diving into how influential she was, and how revolutionary. And I just remember we really went deep on Snapshot of a Daughter-in-Law, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous poem. I remember the group I was in being really hung up on the term grit and how it was being used. The grits fly into her eyes in the poem. The steam from the grits flies into her eyes, and they were talking about it at such length, and it finally had to be like, wait a second, I'm the only American in this group, so I'm the only one who knows that grits is just a breakfast food. Grits is, it's like porridge. It's just a breakfast thing. That helped to make everything solidify, but also just never read poetry like hers, and I loved it. And she just manages to capture you in a particular way that I absolutely love. And unfortunately, 2 months after I returned to the States, she passed away. So there's just this brief moment in history when I was aware of her and she was still alive. And I think if she were still writing poetry to this day, she'd have a lot to say about what was going on in the world. She would have a lot of really deep insight. But I think the poetry that she left behind still is relevant and necessary, and it's something that we can still learn from and can still resonate. The influence she had, the desire to push poetry, the desire for more poets of different backgrounds, races, genders, social standings to not only be published but widely read and shared and understood. I think that influence is still with us today, and I just really, really wanted to share that poem because I read it again recently and it just hit such a chord. So hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully it made you think, because it definitely left a lasting impression on me. So that's all for me today. I'm Kay Spivey. I, many years ago now, did another video about Adrienne Rich, which I will link at the end here. So go check that out as well, and check out some of her other poetry. I was reading from the collection Voices of the Poet by Adrienne Rich. This is just a slim little but absolutely amazing collection of her poetry, and there is so much to find out there. So yes, that's all for me today. Good luck to you, and good luck to all of us. Bye.